They forced her down onto her knees in the center of the compound, the concrete cold even through torn fabric, the taste of dust and blood thick in her mouth. A ring of armed men closed in, shadows stretching long under the floodlights, their boots scraping, their laughter sharp and careless. Someone kicked her shoulder to make sure she stayed down. Another grabbed her hair and yanked her head up so she could see them all. Dozens at first glance, more beyond the fences, confident, relaxed, certain this moment belonged to them. Her wrists were bound behind her back with plastic ties pulled so tight her fingers tingled, but she didn't cry out. She lowered her eyes, not in fear, but in calculation, listening to the rhythm of their voices, counting steps, noting who was closest to whom, where the light failed to reach. A man stepped forward, clearly enjoying himself, and barked an order for her to kneel properly, spine straight, head down. He wanted obedience on display. She obeyed just enough, shifting her weight, letting her shoulders sag as if exhaustion had finally won. Inside, she slowed her breathing, letting the noise fade until only details remained. The hum of the generator to her left, the clink of a loose magazine on a guard's vest, the way the wind pushed smoke from the cooking fires toward the watchtower. She flexed her hands once, subtly, feeling the cable bite deeper. Good. Plastic under tension was predictable. People were not. They began arguing among themselves, voices overlapping, debating what to do with her next. One wanted an example made immediately. Another wanted to wait for orders. The circle loosened without them realizing it, discipline dissolving into ego. She felt the ground vibrate faintly, far off, barely noticeable, but enough to tell her the storm was closer now. The lights flickered once. No one paid attention. She tilted her head just enough to see the guard behind her adjust his grip on the rifle, thumb resting lazily near the safety. Lazy was a gift. The first sound that changed everything was not a shout, but a sharp crack that sliced through the air like tearing cloth. A floodlight burst overhead, showering sparks and glass. For half a second, confusion froze them in place. That half second was all she needed. She snapped her wrists apart, twisting as she did, the weakened tie splitting with a dry pop. Before anyone could react, she surged forward, rolling under the startled guard's raised weapon. Her elbow drove into his knee, her shoulder into his chest. He went down hard, breath exploding from his lungs, and the rifle was already in her hands. Shouts erupted. Gunfire answered from somewhere beyond the walls, precise and deadly. The yard plunged into darkness as more lights failed, shadows swallowing men who had never learned to fight without visibility. She moved instinctively, firing only when a target filled her sight, then relocating before return fire could find her. Training stripped emotion from motion. Step, aim, breathe, fire. Bodies fell. Screams rose and were cut short. Radios crackled uselessly, voices breaking into static and panic. Smoke thickened, mixing with the smell of burned metal and fear. She used it, slipping between structures, vaulting over fallen men, turning their own barricades against them. Every rushed decision they made cost them. They fired wildly into darkness, hitting each other, exposing positions. She took advantage, striking from angles they didn't expect, never staying long enough to be seen clearly. Somewhere a tower collapsed in flames. Somewhere else, an ammo crate cooked off, the shockwave knocking men flat. The night became a maze of noise and death, and she was the only one moving with purpose. Minutes stretched and compressed at once. She lost count of time but not of momentum. When the gunfire finally thinned, she paused, listening, letting the silence settle. Only crackling flames and distant thunder remained. She advanced cautiously, checking corners, confirming what her instincts already told her. No orders were being shouted anymore. No weapons were being raised. The compound, once loud with dominance, lay broken and still. As the first pale hint of dawn touched the horizon, she straightened, shoulders squared, scanning the wreckage one last time. The number didn't matter to her in that moment, only the certainty that the threat was gone. She stepped away from the place where they had ordered her to kneel, leaving behind a lesson written in fire and shadow. Humiliation had been their plan, but survival, and destruction, had been hers. The early morning light was weak, filtering through the smoke and debris of the compound, but it was enough for her to see the devastation around her. Bodies were strewn across the cracked concrete, weapons scattered, some still smoking, others bent or broken from the chaos of the night. The acrid scent of gunpowder and blood clung to the air, making each breath sharp and metallic. She moved carefully, almost methodically, checking every corner, every doorway, every shadowed corridor. Even though the immediate threat had passed, she knew better than to assume it was truly over. Enemies could be hiding, waiting for a single misstep. Every movement had to be deliberate, every step had to be calculated. She had trained for situations like this, but no training could fully prepare someone for the aftermath of such carnage. Her eyes scanned the compound, noting the bodies of the men who had thought themselves untouchable. Many were sprawled in unnatural positions, some clutching rifles that had been useless against her speed and precision. Others lay near shattered barricades, remnants of their last desperate attempts to regain control. The sound of her own boots crunching on debris was the only noise, punctuated by the distant groan of structural damage settling. She knew she had to move quickly. This place would not remain silent for long. Reinforcements could arrive at any moment, drawn by the fire and commotion. Time was now both an ally and a threat. She approached a fallen guard and carefully retrieved a pistol from his belt, checking the chamber with a practiced flick of her wrist. The weapon was intact, and the magazine full. She didn't celebrate the find. She simply noted it, storing it in a position that would allow her to draw it quickly if needed. Her mind ran through the sequence of events from the night before, replaying every movement, every shot, every tactical decision. There was no room for error in her memory, every detail mattered. She had to ensure that nothing had been left undone, that every potential threat had been neutralized. Even in victory, vigilance was a constant companion. As she moved deeper into the compound, she began to notice the signs of panic that had spread among the enemy ranks before their defeat. Bullet casings littered the ground, haphazardly fired into walls and structures. Personal belongings were scattered, wallets, phones, and documents left behind in the rush to escape or in the moments before death. She crouched briefly, inspecting a document that had been discarded near a pile of rubble. It contained maps, schedules, and plans, intelligence that could prove useful if she could get it out safely. But her priority remained survival and securing the perimeter. She could not allow herself to be distracted, no matter how valuable the information might be. A sudden sound made her freeze, metal scraping against metal, distant but unmistakable. She dropped to the ground instinctively, pressing herself against the shadowed side of a wall. Her heart rate accelerated, but her breathing remained controlled. The sound came again, closer this time. Someone was moving among the debris, possibly a survivor attempting to regroup. She adjusted her grip on her weapon, scanning the darkness, calculating angles, estimating distance. One wrong move could be fatal. She shifted her weight, moving silently along the wall, keeping low, using the broken barricades as cover. Every step was deliberate, every motion deliberate, honed through years of training and experience. When she finally spotted the figure, it was clear he had underestimated her. He froze as soon as he saw her, eyes wide, mouth opening in a silent scream. She didn't hesitate. With precision born of countless simulations and real-life encounters, she disarmed him, neutralizing the threat without giving him a chance to draw a weapon. Her movements were fluid, almost rehearsed, but each action carried the weight of real consequence. No one survived because of luck. Survival was earned through skill, speed, and strategy. She left him unconscious, ensuring he could no longer pose a danger, before continuing her sweep. By mid-morning, the compound was quiet again, but her work was far from over. She moved through the wreckage systematically, clearing rooms, checking entry points, and ensuring no hidden dangers remained. Her focus never wavered. Exhaustion was a luxury she could not afford. Every shadow could conceal a threat, every corner could hide an enemy waiting for the slightest misstep. She methodically cleared the space, ensuring that the area was secure before allowing herself a moment to breathe. The enormity of what had occurred weighed on her, but she kept moving. She had survived, and she would continue to ensure that the threat was completely neutralized before leaving this place behind. The sun had climbed higher now, casting harsh light over the shattered compound and revealing the full scale of the destruction she had left behind. Smoke still curled from smoldering debris, and the faint echoes of the night's chaos clung to the air like a warning. She moved deliberately, her senses still sharpened from the adrenaline of battle, but now her focus shifted to securing the perimeter and preparing for extraction. Every step was measured, every motion precise. She had survived the impossible, but she knew better than to let complacency creep in. The slightest distraction could mean death, even now. She paused near a collapsed fence, scanning the perimeter for signs of reinforcements. The terrain beyond the compound was uneven and littered with remnants of abandoned vehicles, crates, and detritus from hurried escapes. Her mind calculated potential approaches, cover points, and escape routes. From this vantage, she could see the area was eerily quiet, save for the occasional crack of burning wood or shifting rubble. Despite the silence, she didn't lower her guard. She knew the enemy could regroup, and any miscalculation could prove fatal. Every instinct screamed vigilance. Every muscle remained coiled, ready to react. Her eyes caught movement near one of the smaller buildings, a flicker of shadow against the stark light. She froze instantly, crouching low, scanning the area with the practiced patience of someone trained to expect betrayal at any moment. The shadow shifted again, and she recognized the subtle hesitation of a survivor, someone too frightened to move decisively. Without hesitation, she advanced, her steps silent on the fractured concrete. She reached the corner of the building and observed a man, barely conscious, clutching a sidearm loosely in trembling hands. His eyes widened as he realized she had him in her sights. She assessed him quickly. He posed no immediate threat, but leaving him alive without control was a risk. She moved forward with controlled precision, catching his weapon before he could react, twisting his wrist, and disarming him. He stumbled back, groaning, eyes filled with disbelief and fear. She secured him with a spare tie from her pack, ensuring he could no longer pose a threat. The calm efficiency of her movements contrasted sharply with the chaos that had unfolded hours earlier. She did not waste time interrogating him. The immediate priority was the larger perimeter. One by one, she neutralized scattered pockets of survivors, methodically securing the compound. She continued moving through the wreckage, stepping over fallen men and shattered equipment, checking every building, every alley, every hidden corner. She found weapons, radios, and critical supplies left abandoned in panic. She collected what was valuable and destroyed what could be used against her later, ensuring the enemy could not regroup using what remained. Her movements were deliberate and measured, almost surgical in their precision. Each decision was made with clarity, without hesitation. Exhaustion gnawed at her muscles, but her mind remained sharp, alert, and unyielding. By midday, she had cleared nearly every structure in the compound. The magnitude of the battle was evident in the silence that now filled the once bustling area. Bodies lay where they had fallen, a grim testament to the events of the night. She paused for a moment, surveying the scene, allowing herself a brief acknowledgement of what had been accomplished. She did not feel triumph or elation. There was no room for such distractions, but a calm satisfaction in the knowledge that she had survived, executed flawlessly, and left no loose ends. The compound, once teeming with overconfidence and violence, was now silent under her watchful gaze. She moved toward the extraction point, scanning the horizon for any sign of incoming threats. Her training dictated that no mission is complete until the extraction is secured, and she followed that principle to the letter. She reached the designated rendezvous, signaling quietly for pickup. The sound of approaching vehicles reached her ears, engines low and controlled. She moved to a concealed position near the edge of the compound, ensuring the path was clear for her departure. As the extraction team arrived, she assessed every movement, every approach, before signaling that the area was secure. Finally, as she stepped into the vehicle, leaving the compound behind, she allowed herself a long, controlled exhale. The weight of the past hours, the threat, the violence, the precision, lingered in her mind, but it was tempered by the knowledge that she had survived against impossible odds. She looked back one last time at the ruined compound, the place where they had demanded she kneel, the place where she had turned the tables and exacted justice in a way they could never have imagined. She knew that her story would be whispered long after, a warning and a testament. Never underestimate the person you try to break, because sometimes the one you think is defeated is the one who holds all the power.